How does your inner voice greet you each morning? Does it whisper gentle encouragement as you open your eyes? Or does it immediately begin the daily inventory of everything you must worry about, everything you did wrong yesterday, everything that awaits you like a burden today? I know this voice. I have lived with it. I have awakened to its harsh commentary for years of my life, and I want you to know something right now. You are not alone in this battle, and more importantly, this battle can end. For too many of us, the first moment of consciousness each morning feels like stepping onto a battlefield. Before our feet even touch the floor, before we have taken our first conscious breath, the mind is already at work, cataloging problems, rehearsing fears, reminding us of all the ways we have fallen short and all the ways we might fall short again today. The morning becomes not a gift, but a gauntlet we must somehow survive. I know this intimately because I lived it. There was a time in my life when opening my eyes each morning felt like agreeing to another day of punishment. I would lie there, still warm under the covers, and feel my chest tighten as my mind began its familiar routine of criticism and dread. Should have done this differently. Why did I say that? How am I going to face today when I could barely face yesterday? The weight of it all would settle on me before I had even sat up. But what if I told you that 3 simple words, spoken for just 3 days, could begin to transform this entire experience? What if the same moment that has been your daily source of suffering could become your daily source of renewal? This is not wishful thinking or empty promises. This is the recognition of a profound truth about how the human mind works and how the first few minutes of your day create the template for everything that follows. Let me take you back to one specific morning that changed everything for me. It was 1981, and I had just received a diagnosis that shattered my world: cancer. The doctor's words were still echoing in my mind as I tried to sleep, and when I woke that morning, my very first thought was sharp and clear and terrifying. You are going to die. The words hit my consciousness like a physical blow, and I felt my body contract around them. My breath became shallow. My heart began to race. I was starting my day from a place of pure terror. But as I lay there, feeling the familiar descent into fear and self-attack, something in me rebelled. Something whispered, what if there was another way to begin? What if the first words I spoke to my consciousness each morning could be different? What if instead of allowing my mind to choose thoughts of fear and criticism, I could consciously choose thoughts of love and safety? It was in that moment of desperation and exhaustion that I discovered the power of morning intention. I began to experiment with intercepting my first thoughts. Instead of allowing my mind to run its usual program of worry and self-condemnation, I would consciously speak different words the moment I became aware. Not affirmations I had to believe, not statements that felt false or forced, but simple, gentle reminders of truth. And what I discovered was that the morning mind is incredibly receptive. In those first few minutes of consciousness, when the analytical mind has not yet fully awakened, the subconscious is listening with extraordinary openness. In the next 60 minutes, you are going to learn exactly which 3 words have the power to transform not just your mornings, but your entire experience of being alive. You will understand why the first 5 minutes of your day are the most neurologically powerful minutes of your 24-hour cycle. You will discover how to work with your brain's natural rhythms instead of against them. And you will leave here with a practice so simple, so gentle, yet so profound that 3 days from now you may barely recognize the person who woke up this morning. But before I reveal these 3 words, you need to understand something crucial about why your mornings have been so difficult and why they hold such incredible potential for healing. Before we go any further, I want you to experience something with me right now. If you are driving or in a public place, you may want to pause this and return when you can sit quietly for a few minutes. What we are about to do together is going to touch something deep in your nervous system, and I want you to be able to feel it fully. Find a comfortable position. Place one hand over your heart and feel its steady rhythm. This heart has been beating faithfully for you every moment of your life, never asking for thanks, never taking a break, simply serving you with unconditional devotion. Close your eyes if you feel safe doing so, or soften your gaze toward the ground. Take a deep breath with me now. Breathe in slowly, feeling your lungs fill completely. Hold for just a moment, and release. Again. Breathe in, feeling space opening in your chest. Hold, and release. One more time. Breathe in as if you are breathing in life itself. Hold, and let go of everything that does not serve you. What I am about to share with you are the 3 words that have transformed countless mornings from moments of dread into moments of recognition. These words are not arbitrary. They have been chosen for their ability to speak directly to the deepest parts of your consciousness, to remind you of truths your mind may have forgotten, but your soul never has. The first word is life. When you say this word upon awakening, you are acknowledging the miracle that you have been given another day. You are recognizing that your heart continued beating while you slept, that your lungs continued breathing, that the incredible intelligence that governs your body never stopped working on your behalf. Life has chosen you again. Out of infinite possibilities, you are here, awake, alive. This is not a small thing. This is everything. The second word is me. This is your recognition of your own unique existence. In all of history, there has never been and will never be another you. Your perspective, your experiences, your way of seeing and being in the world belongs only to you. When you say me, you are claiming your place in the universe. You are acknowledging that you matter, that your life has meaning, that you are not an accident or an afterthought, but a deliberate and necessary part of the whole. The third word is loves. This is your recognition that the force that created you, the intelligence that sustains you, the power that brought you into being, is not indifferent or hostile, but loving. Life does not tolerate you. Life does not endure you. Life loves you. It loves you with a consistency and depth that your human relationships can only approximate. This love is not something you have to earn or prove yourself worthy of. It is the ground of your being. Together, these 3 words create a complete sentence and a complete recognition. Life me loves. Life loves me. It is not a request or a hope or a wishful thought. It is a statement of fact. And when you speak these words in the tender moments of awakening, when your conscious mind has not yet erected all its defenses and arguments, you are allowing this truth to penetrate directly into your subconscious awareness. Let us practice this together now. I want you to whisper the words with me, as if you are sharing a secret with the universe. Ready? Life, me, loves. Say it so quietly that only your own soul can hear. Life me loves. Feel how the words resonate in your chest. Notice what happens in your body as you speak them. Now let us say the words again, this time with your normal speaking voice, allowing them to have weight and presence. Life me loves. Do not worry about whether you believe them yet. Just speak them with intention. Life me loves. Let the words land in your consciousness without resistance or analysis. And now, one final time, I want you to speak these words as if you are making a declaration to the entire universe, as if you are claiming your rightful place in the family of all that exists. Life me loves. Say it with the authority of someone who knows their worth. Life me loves. Feel the power of this simple truth vibrating through your entire being. Take a moment to simply breathe with whatever you are experiencing right now. Some of you may feel warmth spreading through your chest. Others might notice a softening in your shoulders or a deepening of your breath. Some of you might feel emotional, as if something locked inside you is beginning to open. And some of you might feel resistance, as if these words are too simple or too foreign to your usual way of thinking. All of these responses are perfect. Tomorrow morning, when you first open your eyes, before you check your phone, before you think about your schedule, before you allow the usual cascade of thoughts to begin, I want you to place your hand over your heart and speak these 3 words. Life me loves. Let them be the first conscious words you offer to your day. Do this for 3 days. Just 3 days. And notice what begins to shift. You might be wondering how 3 simple words could possibly create real change in your life. The answer lies in understanding something remarkable about how your brain functions in the first few minutes after awakening, and why this particular time of day holds such extraordinary power for transformation. When you wake up each morning, your brain is emerging from sleep cycles that have taken you through different levels of consciousness. In those first 5 to 10 minutes of awakening, you are still in what neuroscientists call a hypnagogic state. Your brainwaves are operating primarily in alpha and theta frequencies, the same frequencies present during deep meditation and hypnosis. This means your subconscious mind is extraordinarily receptive to new information. The analytical, critical part of your mind has not yet fully engaged, so whatever thoughts and words you introduce during this window can bypass your usual mental resistance and plant themselves directly into your subconscious programming. Think of your mind in the morning as rich, freshly watered soil. Seeds planted in this soil have the best chance of taking root and growing strong. For years, you may have been unconsciously planting seeds of worry, self-criticism, and dread in this fertile ground. Is it any wonder that these thoughts have grown into persistent patterns that color your entire day? But when you consciously choose to plant seeds of love, recognition, and safety in these same moments, you are working with the same neurological principles to create an entirely different inner landscape. This is not just spiritual philosophy. This is neuroscience. Every time you repeat a thought or phrase, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that thought. When you speak words of love and recognition to yourself consistently, especially during these neurologically receptive morning moments, you are literally rewiring your brain. You are creating new neural highways that make positive, self-loving thoughts more accessible and automatic. But I know that even as I explain this science, some of you are experiencing resistance. The mind that has been your critic for so long does not give up easily. Let me address the 3 most common objections that arise when people first encounter this practice. The first resistance is what I call the simplicity skepticism. Your mind says, "This is too simple to work. Anything that could really change my life would have to be more complicated, more difficult, more expensive." But simplicity is not a weakness in healing practices. It is a strength. The most profound truths are often the simplest ones. Your breath is simple, yet it sustains your life. Your heartbeat is simple, yet it powers your entire existence. Love itself is simple, yet it has the power to heal the deepest wounds. Do not mistake simplicity for ineffectiveness. The second resistance is the time scarcity excuse. I do not have time for this. I can barely get myself out of bed and ready for work as it is. But speaking these 3 words takes exactly 15 seconds. You spend longer than that deciding what to wear. You spend longer than that scrolling through your phone before you even get up. If you truly do not have 15 seconds for your own well-being, then your life needs more than morning words. It needs a complete restructuring of priorities. But the truth is, you do have 15 seconds. You simply have not believed you are worth spending them on yourself. The third resistance is the authenticity argument. I cannot say words I do not believe. It feels fake and forced. This resistance comes from a misunderstanding about how belief works. You do not need to fully believe these words when you begin speaking them. You only need to be willing to speak them. Belief follows behavior, not the other way around. When you speak words of love to yourself consistently, even without complete conviction, your nervous system begins to respond to the vibration of love. Your body starts to relax, your breathing deepens, your heart rate stabilizes. These physical changes then signal to your brain that you are safe, and safety opens the door for love to feel more natural and authentic. I have seen this process unfold thousands of times. People begin this practice with skepticism, resistance, and doubt. They speak the words mechanically, almost rebelliously, certain that nothing will change. And then, usually by the 2nd or 3rd day, something shifts. It is rarely dramatic. More often, it is subtle. They notice they wake up feeling slightly less heavy. They realize they went several minutes without their usual morning anxiety. They find themselves speaking more gently to themselves throughout the day. If these 3 words have resonated with something in you, if you feel even the slightest curiosity about what might shift if you spoke them each morning, then this channel has new pathways to love waiting for you every week. Each teaching is different, but they all lead to the same destination, the recognition that you are worthy of your own kindness. Subscribe when your heart feels ready. Now, understanding why this practice works is powerful, but knowing how to apply it in the real world of busy mornings, difficult schedules, and persistent old patterns, that is where transformation actually happens. The beauty of these 3 words is that they can be adapted to any lifestyle, any schedule, any living situation. You do not need to create elaborate rituals or carve out large amounts of time. You simply need to find the variation that fits naturally into your existing routine, making it so easy that skipping it feels harder than doing it. The first variation is what I call the before you rise practice. This is for those of you who wake up feeling immediately overwhelmed by the day ahead, or for those who share a bed and need a quiet, private way to begin. The moment you become conscious, before you move your body or open your eyes fully, place your hand gently over your heart. Feel the warmth of your palm against your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Now, silently or in the quietest whisper, speak the words, "Life me loves." Let them be the very first conscious thought you offer to your day. Breathe with the words. Let them settle into your nervous system while your body is still relaxed and receptive. The second variation is the mirror recognition practice. After you rise but before you begin your usual morning routine, go to your bathroom mirror. Look directly into your own eyes. Do not check your hair or examine your skin. Just meet your own gaze with kindness. Now speak the 3 words to your reflection. Life me loves. Say them as if you are speaking to someone you care about deeply. Your reflection is not your enemy or your critic. It is the face of the person who has walked every step of your journey with you. The third variation is the water blessing practice. If you shower in the morning, use the flowing water as a symbol of renewal and cleansing. As you step under the water, speak 1 word with each breath. Life as you feel the water on your skin. Me as you acknowledge your body. Loves as you allow the warmth to relax your muscles. The water carries away not just physical dirt, but energetic residue from sleep and dreams. The fourth variation is the walking meditation practice. If you walk to work, to your car, or simply step outside for any reason in your morning routine, use your steps as a rhythm for the words. Life on the first step, me on the second, loves on the third, then repeat. Let your feet carry the words into the earth. Let your movement become a physical prayer. This variation is perfect for people who feel restless or agitated in the morning. The fifth variation is what I call the emergency reset practice. This is for difficult mornings when you wake up in crisis, when anxiety or depression feels overwhelming, when the usual challenges of getting ready feel impossible. On these mornings, do not worry about the perfect timing or setting. Simply place both hands over your heart, take 3 deep breaths, and speak the words 3 times. Life me loves. Life me loves. Life me loves. Use the practice as a lifeline. I want to share with you the story of a woman named Patrice who discovered the power of the first variation. Patrice had been struggling with morning anxiety for over 15 years. She would wake up every day with what she described as a crushing weight on her chest, immediately flooded with thoughts about everything that could go wrong. She had tried meditation apps, breathing exercises, even changed her diet, but nothing seemed to touch that morning dread. When Patrice first heard about speaking these 3 words before rising, she was skeptical. It seemed too simple for such a persistent problem. But she was also exhausted from fighting her own mind every morning, so she decided to try it. The first morning, she lay in bed, placed her hand on her heart, and whispered, "Life me loves." She felt nothing except slight embarrassment. The second morning, she noticed that speaking the words slowed down her breathing slightly. By the third morning, something remarkable happened. She realized she had been awake for several minutes without the usual flood of anxious thoughts. 6 months later, Patrice told me that her mornings had become her favorite part of the day. She still practiced the words each morning, but now they felt natural, like greeting an old friend. The anxiety that had ruled her mornings for 15 years had not disappeared completely, but it no longer controlled her. She had learned to meet her days with love instead of fear, and that single shift had rippled out to affect her work, her relationships, and her overall sense of peace. You now have 5 ways to practice, 5 different approaches to speaking these 3 words each morning. Choose the one that feels most natural to you, or experiment with different variations on different days. The key is consistency, not perfection. It is better to do a simple version every day than a complex version occasionally. When you commit to speaking these 3 words for 3 consecutive days, you are not just engaging in a simple morning ritual. You are participating in a carefully orchestrated process of nervous system recalibration. Understanding what happens inside your body and brain during these 3 days will help you recognize the subtle shifts that are occurring and give you the patience to trust the process even when change feels imperceptible. Day 1 is what I call the day of resistance and recognition. Your nervous system is on high alert because you are introducing something new into a routine that has been automatic for years, possibly decades. The moment you speak these words, your brain immediately compares them to your existing database of morning thoughts and finds a discrepancy. This discrepancy triggers what neuroscientists call cognitive dissonance. Your mind knows something is different, but it does not yet know whether this difference is safe or threatening. You may notice on the first day that speaking the words feels awkward, forced, or even slightly ridiculous. This is not a sign that the practice is not working. This is a sign that your nervous system is paying attention. The very discomfort you feel is evidence that you are disrupting old patterns. Your subconscious mind has been programmed to expect certain types of thoughts first thing in the morning, usually thoughts of obligation, worry, or self-criticism. When you introduce thoughts of love and recognition instead, you are essentially teaching your brain a new language. Day 2 is the day of curiosity and opening. Something fascinating happens to the human brain when it encounters the same new stimulus for the second time. The initial alarm reaction diminishes, and in its place comes something like curiosity. Your nervous system begins to recognize that this new pattern is not threatening. In fact, it might be beneficial. Your brain starts to notice that speaking words of love to yourself has a calming effect on your body. Your breathing deepens. Your heart rate becomes more stable. Your muscles relax slightly. On the second day, you may notice that the words come more easily. You might find yourself remembering to say them without as much conscious effort. Some people report that they wake up and the words are already there, waiting to be spoken, rather than having to consciously remember to think them. This is your subconscious mind beginning to integrate the new pattern. You may also notice the first subtle shifts in how you feel after speaking the words. Day 3 is the day of integration and expansion. By the 3rd repetition of any new behavior, the human brain begins to recognize it as a potential new habit. The neural pathways that were tentative and uncertain on days 1 and 2 start to develop a thin coating of myelin, the substance that insulates nerve fibers and makes information transmission more efficient. This is why the 3rd day often feels like a breakthrough day. On day 3, many people report that the words begin to feel natural rather than forced. They may wake up and speak the words without conscious effort, as if their deeper wisdom is now partnering with their conscious intention. The resistance that was present on day 1 has usually diminished significantly. Instead of fighting the words or questioning them, people often find themselves curious about how the words make them feel, what shifts they notice in their body, what small changes appear in their emotional state. The science behind these 3 days involves several interconnected processes. First, you are engaging neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections throughout life. Each time you repeat the 3 words, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with self-love and recognition. Simultaneously, you are activating your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your autonomic nervous system responsible for rest, digest, and repair functions. You are also influencing your brain chemistry. Speaking words of love and recognition triggers the release of oxytocin, often called the love hormone, which promotes feelings of bonding, trust, and emotional regulation. At the same time, you are likely reducing the production of cortisol, the stress hormone that floods your system when you wake up thinking anxious or critical thoughts. This shift in brain chemistry can have effects that extend far beyond the few minutes you spend speaking the words. Understanding these 3 days as a process rather than expecting immediate dramatic results is crucial for success. You are not trying to force yourself to believe something. You are not attempting to override years of conditioning through sheer willpower. You are gently, consistently, lovingly teaching your nervous system a new way to respond to consciousness itself. Let me be completely honest with you about time, because I know that when you start any new practice, especially one that promises transformation, you want to know exactly how long it will take to see real results. The question I hear most often is, Louise, how long before I actually feel different? How long before this becomes natural? How long before I can trust that the change is permanent? The truth is that transformation happens in layers, and each layer has its own timeline. The 3-day period we have been discussing is just the beginning, the initial phase where you establish the practice and begin to disrupt old patterns. But lasting change, the kind of change that becomes part of who you are rather than something you do, unfolds over a longer period. Day 1 is about willingness. You do not need to feel different. You do not need to believe the words completely. You simply need to be willing to speak them. Your only goal on day 1 is to prove to yourself that you can do something loving for yourself even when it feels awkward or unfamiliar. Success on day 1 is measured by showing up, not by feeling transformed. Day 2 is about perception. This is when you begin to notice subtle changes, though they may be so small that you question whether they are real. You might realize that you have been breathing slightly deeper since you woke up. You might notice that your usual morning anxiety takes a few extra minutes to kick in. You might catch yourself being gentler with yourself when you make a small mistake. These changes are real, even if they feel insignificant. Day 3 is about confirmation. This is typically when people have what I call the recognition moment, when they realize that something fundamental has shifted in their relationship with themselves. They might wake up and speak the words automatically, without having to remember. They might notice that their first thought upon waking is no longer criticism or dread. They might feel a sense of companionship with themselves that they have not experienced in years. During the first week, you are establishing the practice as a habit. You are likely to still need conscious intention to remember to speak the words, but it will feel easier each day. You may notice that the morning anxiety or depression that has been your companion for years begins to feel less automatic, less inevitable. You are creating space between your awakening consciousness and your habitual thought patterns. During weeks 2 through 4, you enter what I call the integration phase. The words begin to feel natural rather than forced. You may find yourself saying them without conscious effort, or waking up with them already present in your awareness. This is when many people report that other people begin to notice changes in their energy. Comments like, "You seem more relaxed lately," or "There is something different about you," become common. Around the 2nd or 3rd month, you typically enter what I call the identity shift phase. The practice of speaking loving words to yourself each morning has rewired your nervous system enough that self-kindness begins to feel normal rather than revolutionary. You are no longer practicing self-love, you are living it. You may notice that you automatically speak to yourself with more compassion throughout the day. But I need to tell you about what I call the testing phase, because this is where many people get confused and sometimes give up. Usually, somewhere between day 10 and day 20, you will have what feels like a terrible morning. You will wake up feeling worse than you have in days or weeks. Your old patterns of thought and feeling will return with what seems like vengeance. This testing phase is not a sign that the practice has failed. It is a sign that it is working so well that your psyche is trying to return to familiar territory. If you are ready to begin this journey tomorrow morning, If you feel called to discover what might shift if you spoke these 3 words for 3 consecutive days, then declare it in the comments. Write simply, Day 1 tomorrow, life me loves, or if you are already practicing, share where you are. Day 2, feeling the shift, or Day 3, something is different. When you declare your intention publicly, you are joining a community of people who have chosen to begin their days with love instead of criticism. But before you begin, there are 5 specific voices that will try to stop you during these 3 days. If you do not recognize them and prepare for them, they can derail your practice before it has a chance to take root. During your 3 days of practice, your psyche will mount a defense against this new pattern of self-love. This is not because your psyche wants to harm you, but because it is designed to protect you from change that it perceives as potentially dangerous. For years, maybe decades, your morning thoughts have followed a familiar pattern, even if that pattern has been painful. Familiar pain feels safer to the unconscious mind than unfamiliar love. The first obstacle I call the ridicule of simplicity. This voice usually appears on the first morning, often within seconds of speaking the 3 words. It sounds like this. This is ridiculous. 3 little words are supposed to change my life? I have real problems that require real solutions, not fairy tale affirmations. If healing was this simple, everyone would be doing it. When this voice arises, remember that simplicity is not the enemy of effectiveness. The most profound healing often comes through the simplest practices. When the voice of ridicule arises, simply respond, I am willing to try something simple. The second obstacle is what I call the urgency hijack. This voice typically appears on the 2nd day, just as you are beginning to settle into the practice. It sounds like this. I do not have time for this today. I overslept and I am already behind schedule. I can skip this just once and make it up tomorrow. This voice uses the genuine pressures of daily life to convince you that self-love is a luxury you cannot afford. When the urgency hijack appears, remember that speaking these 3 words takes exactly 15 seconds. When this voice tries to rush you past your morning practice, remind yourself, my well-being is not optional. The third obstacle I call the authenticity attack. This voice often emerges on the 2nd or 3rd day, especially if you are beginning to feel small shifts in your mood or energy. It sounds like this. This feels fake. I am lying to myself. How can I say life loves me when I do not feel loved? The authenticity attack misunderstands how belief and transformation work. You do not need to feel completely convinced of these words when you speak them. You only need to be willing to speak them. When this voice questions your sincerity, respond gently, I am not pretending. I am practicing. The 4th obstacle is what I call the comparison trap. This voice usually appears on the 3rd day or shortly afterward, especially if your changes feel subtle rather than dramatic. It sounds like this. Other people seem to get results faster. I read testimonials of people who felt completely different after 3 days, but I barely notice anything. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. The comparison trap fails to understand that healing happens at different rates for different people. When this voice tries to make you doubt your progress, remind yourself, I trust my unique rhythm. The 5th and most challenging obstacle is what I call the final test. This typically appears around day 4 or 5, just as you are beginning to trust that something is really changing. It manifests as one particularly difficult morning when all of your old patterns seem to return with extra intensity. You wake up feeling more anxious, more critical, more hopeless than you have felt in days. The final test is actually a sign that your practice is working so well that your psyche is making one last attempt to return you to familiar territory. When you encounter the final test, do not abandon your practice. Instead, speak the 3 words with even more tenderness than usual. Each of these obstacles is actually a teacher in disguise. The ridicule of simplicity teaches you to value gentleness over force. The urgency. Hijack teaches you to prioritize your well-being even when life feels chaotic. The authenticity attack teaches you that practice creates belief, not the other way around. The comparison trap teaches you to honor your unique journey without measuring it against others. The final test teaches you that healing is not linear. When any of these voices arise, and they will, meet them with compassion rather than resistance. Thank them for trying to protect you, and then gently return to your practice. Remember that these voices are not your enemies. They are the guardians of your old patterns, trying to keep you safe in the familiar, even when the familiar has been painful. As your new patterns grow stronger, these voices will grow quieter. Transformation is rarely dramatic. It does not announce itself with fanfare or obvious external changes. Instead, it whispers through small shifts in your nervous system, tiny alterations in your automatic responses, subtle changes in the quality of your breath and the rhythm of your thoughts. Learning to recognize these signs is crucial because they become the evidence that builds your faith in the process. The signs of the first day are what I call the nervous system signals. These are physical changes that occur in your body as you speak the 3 words, even if your mind remains skeptical. You might notice that your shoulders drop slightly when you say the words, as if some invisible weight has been lifted. You might feel your breathing naturally deepen without conscious effort. Some people report a subtle warmth spreading through their chest, as if their heart is responding to the kindness in their voice. One of the most common first-day signs is what I call the pause effect. After speaking the words, "Life me loves," you may find yourself naturally taking a moment of stillness before getting out of bed, as if your system needs time to integrate what it has just heard. This pause is not laziness or procrastination. It is your nervous system's way of savoring the experience of being spoken to with love. Another first-day sign is the thought interruption phenomenon. You may notice that your usual cascade of morning worries takes longer to begin, or that when anxious thoughts do arise, they feel less urgent, less consuming. This is because you have given your consciousness a different starting point. Instead of beginning your day with unconscious fear or criticism, you have begun with conscious love. The signs of the second day are deeper and more internal. This is when you might experience what I call the familiarity surprise. The words that felt foreign or awkward on the first day begin to feel more natural. You may wake up and find that the words are already there in your awareness, waiting to be spoken, rather than having to consciously remember to think them. On the second day, many people notice the energy shift. Instead of feeling depleted or heavy upon waking, they feel a subtle increase in vitality. Not manic energy or forced enthusiasm, but a quiet sense of aliveness. Some describe it as feeling more present in their bodies, more connected to their physical experience. The emotional cushion is another common second-day sign. Throughout the day, you may find that small irritations or disappointments do not affect you as intensely as usual. It is as if the morning practice of speaking loving words to yourself has created a buffer between your essential self and the inevitable challenges of daily life. The signs of the third day are often the most convincing because they involve what I call identity recognition moments. These are instances when you catch yourself being different without having consciously tried to be different. You might notice that you speak to yourself more kindly when you make a mistake. You might realize that you have been breathing more deeply throughout the day without thinking about it. One of the most powerful third-day signs is what I call the mirror moment. This is when you catch your reflection unexpectedly, perhaps while washing your hands or passing a store window, and instead of immediately cataloging what you dislike about your appearance, you have a moment of neutral acceptance or even gentle affection. Let me share with you the experience of a man named Darius, who recognized his 3-day signs in a particularly powerful way. Darius had been practicing the 3 words for exactly 3 days when he found himself stuck in a traffic jam that would normally send him into a rage. He was already running late for an important meeting, the car was overheating, and construction had closed 2 of the 3 lanes ahead of him. As he felt his familiar anger beginning to rise, Darius was astonished to hear himself whisper, almost without conscious thought, "Life me loves." In that moment, he realized that the words had become an automatic response to stress rather than just a morning practice. But more than that, he noticed that his body remained relatively relaxed despite the challenging circumstances, The situation had not changed, but his nervous system's response to the situation was completely different. The recognition of these signs is crucial because they become the evidence that sustains your practice through inevitable moments of doubt. When your analytical mind tries to convince you that nothing is really changing, you can remember the way your shoulders dropped when you spoke the words, the way your breathing deepened, the way small irritations affected you less intensely. Let me tell you about a woman named Celeste who discovered these 3 words during one of the darkest periods of her life. Celeste was 47 years old and had been teaching elementary school for 23 years. For the past 8 years, she had been waking up every single morning with the same crushing thought, I cannot do this anymore. Not just the job, not just the day ahead, but life itself felt like an insurmountable burden that she was barely managing to carry. Celeste described her mornings as entering a daily battlefield. The moment consciousness returned, her mind would begin its familiar litany of dread and self-attack. You are failing your students. You are failing your family. You are failing yourself. You used to love teaching, but now you can barely drag yourself through each lesson. The children deserve better than what you are giving them. You deserve better than what you are giving yourself, but you are too tired and too stuck to change anything. She had tried therapy, antidepressants, meditation apps, exercise routines, dietary changes, and countless self-help strategies. Some provided temporary relief, but nothing touched the fundamental heaviness that settled on her chest each morning like a familiar weight. She had reached a point where she was not exactly suicidal, but she was not exactly glad to be alive either. She was existing rather than living, surviving rather than thriving. The morning that changed everything started like all the others. Celeste woke up at 5:30 in the morning to the sound of her alarm, and her first thought was the usual one. I cannot do this anymore. But on this particular morning, as she lay in bed feeling the familiar descent into despair, she remembered something she had heard in a podcast the day before. A teacher talking about 3 words that could interrupt morning patterns of depression and self-criticism. At first, Celeste felt a wave of cynicism. 3 words? After 8 years of professional help and countless strategies, someone was suggesting that 3 words could make a difference? But she was also so exhausted from fighting her own mind every morning that she thought, what do I have to lose? The worst that could happen is I feel foolish for 15 seconds. The best that could happen is I feel even slightly less terrible. So Celeste placed her hand over her heart, exactly as she had heard the teacher instruct, and she whispered the words for the first time. Life me loves. The words felt strange and unfamiliar in her mouth. Her immediate thought was, this is ridiculous. I do not feel loved. I feel abandoned and exhausted and hopeless. But something in her was curious enough to try again the next morning. Day 2, Celeste woke up with the same heavy thought, I cannot do this anymore. But this time, before the thought could fully form and settle into her consciousness, she remembered the 3 words, life me loves. As she spoke them, she noticed something remarkable. The familiar weight on her chest did not disappear, but it felt slightly less solid, slightly less permanent. For the first time in months, maybe years, her first conscious moments were spent speaking words of recognition rather than words of despair. Throughout that second day, Celeste found herself occasionally thinking about the 3 words. Not obsessively, but the way you might think about a new song you heard that keeps playing softly in the background of your mind. During lunch, while supervising her students on the playground, she caught herself whispering them again. Life me loves. One of her students, a particularly sensitive little girl named Maya, looked up at her and said, Miss Celeste, you seem happier today. That comment stayed with Celeste for the rest of the day. Day 3 was when everything shifted. Celeste woke up before her alarm, which had not happened in years. As consciousness returned, she had a moment of confusion because her usual thought of dread was not there waiting for her. Instead, the first words that came to her awareness were, life me loves, and they felt less like something she was forcing herself to say and more like something that was naturally arising from within her. As she spoke the words on that 3rd morning, Celeste felt something she had not experienced in so long she had forgotten it was possible. A sense of companionship with herself. Not dramatic joy or sudden enlightenment, but a quiet recognition that she was not alone in her own mind. The voice that had been attacking her for 8 years every morning was still there, but it had been joined by another voice, a gentler one that was learning to speak on her behalf. That third day, during her afternoon teaching, something extraordinary happened. One of her students was struggling with a math problem and began to cry, saying, "I am so stupid. I cannot do anything right." Instead of her usual patient but detached response, Celeste knelt down beside the child and said, "You are not stupid. You are learning, and learning takes time. Life loves you exactly as you are right now." As she spoke these words to the child, she realized she was also speaking them to herself. The transformation was not immediate or complete. Celeste continued to have difficult mornings, days when the old patterns returned with intensity. But something fundamental had shifted. She now had a tool, a way to interrupt the automatic descent into despair and self-attack. The 3 words became her lifeline, something she could reach for when her mind tried to convince her that she was failing at everything. 6 months later, Celeste describes her morning routine as sacred rather than torturous. She still speaks the 3 words each day, but now they feel like greeting an old friend, rather than forcing herself to believe something foreign. Her teaching has regained the warmth and creativity that had been buried under years of depression. Her colleagues have noticed that she seems lighter, more present. Several have asked her what changed, and she tells them about the 3 words. But perhaps most importantly, Celeste has learned to recognize her own worth not as something she has to earn through perfect performance, but as something that is inherent in her existence. The morning voice that once attacked her has been gradually replaced by one that offers encouragement. Instead of waking up thinking, "I cannot do this anymore," she often wakes up thinking, "What is possible today?" When I last spoke with Celeste, she said something that perfectly captures the power of this practice. 3 words taught me that I was not broken or damaged or hopeless. I was simply starving for my own love. All those years, I was waiting for someone else to tell me I was valuable, worthy, enough. These 3 words taught me that I could offer that recognition to myself. They taught me that life had been loving me all along, I just had not been listening. This is the power of consistency over intensity, of gentleness over force, of love over criticism. Celeste's story could be your story. The same capacity for transformation that awakened in her exists within you. The same love that was waiting to be recognized in her is waiting to be recognized in you. We have spent 54 minutes together, and that is not an accident. You did not find this teaching by chance. Your soul has been calling you toward a different way of beginning your days, a different relationship with your own consciousness, a different recognition of your inherent worth. Everything that has brought you to this moment has been preparing you for what we are about to do together. I want you to place both hands over your heart now and feel its faithful rhythm. This heart has been beating for you since before you took your first breath. It has never taken a day off, never asked for gratitude, never stopped believing you are worth keeping alive. As you feel this steady pulse under your palms, recognize that this is life loving you in the most basic and essential way possible. Close your eyes if you feel safe to do so, or soften your gaze towards something that brings you peace. Take a deep breath with me, feeling your lungs expand with life, giving air that has been provided for you freely, abundantly, without condition. This breath is proof that life supports you. This heartbeat is proof that life cherishes you. This moment of awareness is proof that life delights in your existence. What we are about to do together is not simply speak words. We are sealing a new agreement with yourself, a sacred recognition of your worth that will echo through every cell of your being. We are declaring to your conscious and unconscious mind, to your nervous system, to your very soul, that you are choosing love over criticism, recognition over rejection, companionship over isolation. Let us speak these 3 words together now, and as we do, feel their truth settling into the deepest parts of you. First, we whisper them like a secret shared between you and the universe. Life, me, loves. feel how the words resonate in your chest. Feel how they create space where there was once constriction. Breathe with them. Let them rest in your awareness like seeds in fertile soil. Now let us speak them with your normal voice, allowing them to have weight and presence in your consciousness. Life me loves. Do not analyze or judge. Simply allow the words to exist within you without resistance. Feel them as a statement of fact rather than a hope or wish. This is not something you are trying to make true. This is something you are recognizing as already true. And finally, let us speak these words with the full authority of someone who knows their place in the magnificent web of existence, with the voice of someone who understands that they are not an accident or an afterthought, but a beloved and necessary expression of life itself. Life me loves. Speak it as if you are making a declaration to every force in the universe that has ever made you doubt your worth. Now, feel the reverberations of these words in your body. Notice how your breathing has changed. Notice the quality of space around your heart. Notice any shifts in the tension you carry in your shoulders, your jaw, your belly. Your nervous system is responding to the vibration of love. Your cells are receiving the message that you are safe, cherished, held. Let us now declare not just what life does for you, but who you are in response to that love. Speak these words with me now. I am worthy of gentle mornings. I am deserving of my own kindness. I always have been. Feel the truth of this identity settling into your bones. You are not trying to become worthy. You are recognizing that you always were. And so it is sealed. And so it remains. And it cannot be of any other form. And so it is. If these words have touched something real within you, if you feel called to continue this journey of morning recognition and self-love, then new teachings await you here every week. Each one offers a different path to the same destination, the remembrance of your inherent worth. Subscribe when your heart feels ready. In the comments below, if you feel moved to do so, make your commitment known. Write simply, "Tomorrow begins, life me loves," or if you are already walking this path, Day 2, feeling the shift, or Day 3, everything is different. When you declare your intention publicly, you join a community of souls who have chosen to speak to themselves with love instead of criticism. And if this teaching has served you, if these words have created even the smallest opening in your heart, there is a way to support this work in the first pinned comment below. This is not an obligation but an offering, a way for energy to flow in gratitude if you feel called to participate in that flow. What matters most is not what you give, but what you have already received. Remember this truth as you close your eyes tonight and as you open them tomorrow morning. Life has always loved you. From the moment you drew your first breath to the moment you will draw your last, life has been expressing its love through your very existence. You have never been without love. You have only been without the recognition of that love. These 3 words are not creating something new. They are helping you remember something eternal. You are not trying to earn love through this practice. You are simply learning to receive the love that has been yours all along. Your new morning begins not tomorrow when you wake, but right now in this moment of recognition. Right now in this choice to see yourself through the eyes of love instead of judgment. Right now in this gentle, radical, revolutionary act of speaking kindly to your own soul. 3 words, 3 days, 1 life transformed. The words are simple. Life me loves. The practice is gentle. 3 words for 3 days. The transformation is profound. A life lived in recognition of your inherent worth. And so it is.